Hello and welcome to Money with Mac and G. We're so happy that you're here. We have two special guests today. The first one's a 13-year-old who is an entrepreneur at heart, who has some really great stories and has lived all over the country and all over the world, to be quite honest. And has some great stories about some different money items in those different places. Her name is Katie Schischa. And we also have her father here too, who's going to bring some interesting insights. We're so glad you're here. Please subscribe and like this podcast, the video on Educounting, and we're so happy that you're here today. Katie, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
And did you have a great time at the beach today?
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
It was, wasn't it? I think I got a little too red. Been hanging out in Indiana just a little too long, right?
Yeah, definitely. You need to come down here.
Yeah, I need to come down here.
It's kind of like a lobster mixed with a raccoon.
That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so happy that you're here because I know a lot of the stories about you, and I know you're a little bit nervous. Don't worry about it. It's all okay. You're 13 and you're doing some amazing things, and just kind of wanted to dive into it because it has to do with money, and it has to do with what we can teach and help other people think about on how to make some money. What do you say about that?
That's cool.
All right. Well, I talked to your father, who I've known for 20 years, so about 7 or 8 years longer than you've been alive. Is that a little scary to think about?
No. Actually, no, it is scary to see what my dad was doing at that time.
You're a little scared.
And when you grow up, we'll tell you.
You're a little scared about it, who his friends were before you were actually born. I got it.
But to make it really simple, it's about the same thing as now. Ben and I were sitting, watching TV, and eating warm Ben & Jerry's ice cream with a fork.
Exactly.
Well, then.
Things haven't changed much in the days in London when we were sitting in Holland Park enjoying ourselves, eating some wonderful ice cream. So, but it's all good. We just had a tomahawk, which
and we should note that the Ben & Jerry's there tasted like the Ben & Jerry's here, which is not always the case, but that was very cool.
It's amazing.
That's a good thing, I guess.
I think that's a great thing. Even if they sell it at Tesco over there or Costco, which they did have over there, or any of the local places, it was still pretty amazing. So
But the M&Ms were different. You got to remember that.
The M&Ms were different. I can't remember.
M&Ms tasted a little different. They were kind of, the candy coating was a little bit more sugary and sweet.
Yeah.
But the M&Ms here were better. So, you know.
The ketchup over there for the McDonald's was actually sweeter.
Ketchup.
But it's all good.
So when we went to go eat at Burger King, we had to go over to McDonald's to get the ketchup packets.
Yes.
Because they were right next door to each other. So Ben would go into the McDonald's to get the ketchup packets, and I'd go to Burger King and order. So somehow I always ended up paying for stuff.
And that's cool. He just liked that.
He was thinking business and saving money from the beginning.
I was just thinking that I wanted to give him the opportunity to feel good about himself and buy dinner.
So we got Evil Mastermind and Minion. Got it.
Exactly.
You can look at it like that, but the generosity that you put out into the universe, it comes back. So, you know.
And the great part about you, Katie, is you have a twin sister, Ava, right? And she was invited to be here if she wanted to, but I think she's back in her room doing a lot of reading.
Reading a book?
Yes. Yeah. Reading a book, which I think is amazing.
She loves reading her books.
Loves to read the books. But I know you're a little bit different because you love doing your little business on the side. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is more of a hobby, but yes, business, you can say it also.
And I think it started maybe a little bit with your dad because your dad saw some stuff. You want to try to give us the story? Maybe Dad hops in and helps you out a little bit? You don't have to look at him to see what the story is. You should know this story, right?
See, you don't have to look at me for approval because we'll just edit it out if there's a problem.
Okay, yes, it all started off as my dad is also a very amazing entrepreneur.
Yes, he is.
Oh, wow, and here's $5. Thank you for that compliment.
I always admire how he started new businesses and helped them.
Yeah, help them grow and develop them.
And I loved how he used techniques to negotiate to get what he wanted a lot of times.
Okay.
So, and when he took me to a flea market and garage sales, I find it very fun to just go around, see the new deals and the exciting part of it, and see how low I can go.
And
on
also
the price.
think about it, because at the very beginning it was how cheap things were
relative to what you wanted.
Relative to how much you would have to pay in the store to buy them. And if you wanted, let's say, a game that could be $20 in the store, and we'd say, no, it's too expensive, and then you'd see it for like $1 at a garage sale because the people, they weren't thinking of how much it was worth. They were thinking of getting rid of it out of their house.
And I think that's amazing because you realize that. You go, oh my gosh, this is so completely inexpensive. I would love to get this because I can get 100 times more than I could buying it full
I
price.
can buy it brand new, or I can buy them at the garage sale and get 20 different things for the price of that one brand new thing.
So what kind of things did you like normally like hunt down? Did you hunt down like old beer cans or?
No.
No.
I am underage.
Oh, okay. I was just checking. Okay.
See, Ben's worked around the world, so he gets a little confused on those sort of
13
things.
in France,
France
they'll serve you. Don't worry about it.
16 in Germany at the beer festivals.
Exactly.
I don't want to go there. No, I mostly do a lot of things, collectibles, almost any collectible.
Collectibles. Now, so for some people, they don't know what a collectible is. What is that? Is that?
It is, it's like a supply and demand.
Okay.
A collectible is something that is low on demand but high in demand.
Oops.
Low in supply but high in demand.
Think about collectibles as things that you buy that you start to add more and more to your collections.
Collection, right? You
Like,
collect them.
so what are some of the things that you
See, as a collectible.
buy that you bought one and then you liked it so much you wanted more of those?
Definitely
different
Star
type.
Wars.
Star Wars
stuff.
Who's your favorite character, by the way? Luke or?
I don't really
Darth Vader?
have one. I really love Star Wars and
Just
every.
things from Star Wars.
Yes.
Awesome. Like lightsaber. I heard you have an awesome double-sided lightsaber. Is that
Yes,
right?
I have a possessed double-sided.
Possessed?
Yes, it's possessed. It
Oh
turns on its
man.
own.
And-
So what makes it possessed?
I have no idea. It's just.
So, but how do you know it's possessed? What happens?
It just lights up for no reason. Some days it stops, just doesn't turn on at all. Other days.
Didn't you
In
tell
the
me there
middle
was
of the night.
a new Star Wars that came out and then it started to glow or something like
Oh
that?
yeah, that happened.
That's
It was like it was communicating with the movie. It was possessed.
It was
totally
really
possessed.
creepy.
It was a little creepy. So you got things that are cool that you want to collect that other people go, ooh, you got a double-sided lightsaber that's possessed, and you've got this or you got that. What are some of the other things? Because I know there's one thing you focus in on for sure.
I focus in a lot on Beanie Babies.
Beanie Babies.
Mm-hmm.
And also, of course, other Disney items.
Because you live near Disney.
Yes.
And you also know that people are a little cuckoo
No,
towards
yeah.
Disney, right? And they'll pay crazy amounts of money for stuff, right?
Yes, I can get it for cheap at the flea market for
Yes.
brand new items, and then maybe resell them for a higher profit and get profit.
I think you told me that your teacher is like just totally wacky about like her stuff, and her whole classroom is decked out in
yes,
Disney
it's
stuff,
all
right?
Disney.
So you realize there could be a market for this, right?
Yes.
And if you think about it, everybody, we all, if we just think about it, we all know somebody that's crazy about Disney.
Yes.
That it's like
Look at this
Disney's
stuff.
this universal
Isn't it
thing that
neat?
even the people that are listening to this podcast, you know, their moms, they're probably already nodding. Yes, she's crazy about
I
Disney.
love the Little Mermaid. I can't deny. It's pretty wonderful. So you save these Disney things. You
Yeah.
collect Disney, collect Star Wars, Beanie Babies.
And also some other things anything that is mostly old toys,
Coins.
coins.
Oh, you got coins too? I didn't know that. Okay, it's new.
It's a coin collection. You know those little pennies whenever you go to the theme parks and you roll them and flattens it out
Yeah.
and makes it. She has a collection of those that she from every place she goes to.
So it was a hobby, but it was also you found that you could buy some of these things that you love and then pass it on to people who really want them and make some moolah, right?
Yes, money.
And moolah money.
Thanks for the translation for
Sure.
everybody else here. Yes.
Sure. And you were doing this at garage sales. And then I think maybe did your dad say, "Hey, let's check out the flea market," or was that you? Or
Actually, he always wanted to take us to one flea market at this.
for himself, right? He wanted to check it out, but
Yeah, he always wanted to go there and bring us also just for a fun family experience.
did you go together, all four of you, your mom and your twin sister?
All four of us went there.
So you go, and what was your first impression like of a flea market?
It was very I don't know the right word for this, but it was intense. It was a lot of people and a lot of booths, but it was awesome also.
So is the flea market, is that like a garage sale, like 100 garage sales all in one place?
You can say that, but it's a little more
You can say
You can say whatever you want.
more chaotic, I think.
Gotcha.
Because garage sales, more people do more research
Really? Okay.
and have more higher prices most of the time.
At the garage sale.
At the garage
Yes.
sale?
So
Or it can be also less price because
so you know your customer, or you know like who you're buying from, right? Because I think you might have told me, and remind me if this is true, but people when they're selling their own stuff, they're emotionally attached to it.
Yes.
Oh, I had that when my first son was born. We need at least $5 from that. But you go to a flea market and they're like, 30 cents, 50
Yeah.
cents, right? And so it's a different mentality, right? So you're walking around this flea market probably excited, but you're also probably, what the heck is going on, right?
Yes.
Did you like it?
I saw a lot of unique items in there.
Okay.
And a
now-
lot of times it's like even history lessons, because when we go, she sees a lot of things there that she's never seen before in her life. And she'll start asking questions like, one time we were there, remember? And she saw the water skis that were used at Cypress Gardens.
Oh, cool.
Cypress Gardens was the original amusement park in Florida before Disney and before anything. And they have these famous show there where the ladies were water skiing and double decker and everything. And that was kind of like, for the people listening, it's the stuff that your grandmother used to go to on vacation to see. So we saw these and they had the logo on them. And we got to talk about what Cypress Gardens was, and which is now, of course, what's Cypress Garden because it changed hands.
Is it?
It's
Busch
something.
Gardens?
No, now Cypress Gardens is Legoland, Florida. So when you go to Legoland, that is the
know
former
that.
Cypress Gardens. Absolutely.
So for some-
And they still have a big cypress tree there as a memory of the Cypress Gardens.
Gotcha. Because some of that stuff, people like to relive that memory
And so
and own something from that
so
time.
we looked at it and we thought it would be really cool because it had the logos and put it up on the wall.
Right.
But one of our major limiting factors in our family is that her mom does not allow that stuff in the house.
Yes.
So we have to juggle between really cool stuff and if mom's at home, then we can't bring it into the house. If mom's away,
Exactly.
then we can sneak it in somewhere, which we've done once on one item. And then what happened? What was that item and what happened when mom found out when we brought it in?
Well, we bought a carousel thing.
A carousel horse. You know the merry-go-rounds, the carousel horse? They had one at the flea market. And we looked at it and we thought, okay, this thing must be a few $100s. And
How much did they want for it?
And wait.
Oh.
Katie was really super excited. And we said before she even walked up, okay, if it's less than like $25 or something, you can take it home. And I knew there's no way it could be less than $25.
It was $10.
It was
$10.
$10, so I was sunk. We had to buy it. And so we put it in the trunk of the car because it was the horse with the pole.
Right.
And then I had this whole plan. I was gonna, while mom was
wife,
away,
your mom,
I was
or
gonna
your
go in the
wife?
backyard, dig a hole, put that carousel thing in, and the girls could sit on it.
Oh my God. So I think what you're telling me is that going to a flea market could be bad for your marriage, right? And that it could be fun at the
And
same time.
really cool, funny stuff there. Like the gigantic high-heeled shoe that was a lounge chair. And we thought it was the most crazy, ugly thing we've ever seen.
And you wanted to buy it.
there were two people there and they're like going, oh my God, this is gorgeous. I can so see this in our house. And it just taught us in the world that there is something for everyone. Anything out there's going to be out of 6 billion people or 7 billion people in this world, somebody's going to want it.
So you get out to the flea market, you're excited. You want to buy a high-heeled, what do you call it? Chair. You want to buy a horse from a carousel. But you're buying things that you like to collect because you
Yes.
know that you can make money on it. And tell me some stuff about like the money that you made.
I make a profit on a lot of items that I buy.
So give us an example, like with the Beanie Babies. We mentioned the Beanie Baby hobby.
Okay.
So when you go to, how much do you pay for a Beanie Baby?
At around 50 cents each to $1.
Okay. And is there anything particular on a Beanie Baby when you go to buy it that you would have a feeling, oh, this one because we all see a ton of Beanie Babies out there right now.
Yes, I look more specifically for holidays or specific events for Beanie Babies.
So if people don't know about Beanie Babies, a holiday or specific event, holiday could be like Halloween, Christmas, and a specific event could be like a birthday Beanie Baby, which
like
has a month on
Olympic.
it. Or Olympic. Okay, cool.
Yes, absolutely. We saw an Olympic.
And you know that there's going to be more of a demand for those because those are extra special, right?
Because
to celebrate something.
Yeah.
people are celebrating Christmas, and part of their gift, they want to do a Christmas beanie. Now, but here's a real interesting catcher, right? Because at first you were buying just normal Beanie Babies, right? And then remember, there's something on the Beanie Baby that makes it, that made it very much more expensive, right? So why is that?
Because they're different generations of Beanie Babies.
Like a first generation, second generation?
The first couple generations are far more expensive.
More valuable, right? You
far
can
more
sell
valuable than newer ones.
And you can tell that because of the design of the tag.
Wow. So you learned a lot about it. When you're talking about like investing or making a profit, you have to know, for collectibles in particular, you got to know about what you're doing, right? A stock and bond's a little bit different, right? Very similar. You got to understand what's going on. But for collectibles, you have to have very specific knowledge, right?
Yeah.
The Beanie Babies, the generations, different stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so you started to buy it for 50 cents or $1, is that right? And what would you sell for?
It depends on a Beanie Baby. Some of them can go up to 30 to 10.
10 to 30 bucks?
Yeah, maybe even higher.
Maybe even higher. So have you ever bought like a whole garbage bag of Beanie Babies?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the look on her face. That's one of her finds.
Have bought like a huge tin.
A huge tub.
Like
tub,
storage container.
yes, a huge tub of Beanie Baby covered with all McDonald's toys of McDonald Beanie Babies.
So you mean like the what is it called? The Happy Meal?
Yes,
the toys that go in the Happy Meal?
all Happy Meal toys and Beanie Babies.
Gotcha.
So how much did he want for each one in that tub?
Whoever wanted at least $1 for each toy.
And how many were in the tub? About.
Over 100 toys are in there.
So he had over 100. He wanted $1 per. So he wanted $100. What'd you get to?
Well, then I decided to go ahead and just put it out there and ask for $10 for it.
That's crazy. Aren't you embarrassed when someone wants to sell something for 100 to say just $10 and not like 50 or something?
I would not feel embarrassed for it because if I don't ask,
You never know what you're...
You never know what you get. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so now you're selling them for what? $3 to $5 is kind of normal,
actually,
maybe?
no. Some of them are actually at a higher price. Two of them can actually go up to 10 to 15 to actually $20.
So if you have 100 of them, you're at least 200 to
Probably $500 to $1,000.
Really?
You will, when she ends up selling them all, it'll be $500 to $1,000 for her $10 investment. Plus, of course,
commission.
What we have to talk about, which is your employee who posts it all on the way. Because we haven't talked much about your employee that you have working for you.
I saw a very attractive lady walking around here. Who is she?
Yes, my mom puts them up.
So your mom
puts them up.
So what does your mom do?
She uses eBay to put them up.
First, she researches them on eBay, right?
Yes.
To see how much they're
She helps
selling
you out
for.
to get the best price.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then she posts it on eBay, right? Mm-hmm. And then
She keeps the money.
Yeah, that's where the whole system kind of falls apart. You buy it, she sells it, she keeps the money. So on the one side, it's a very good business model you have going there, but on the other side, you need to see some profits from it.
Yeah, I need to get more strict on seeing
Collections.
the money.
Collections, AR, accounts receivable.
Collections are very, very important. To have a sale is important, but you still have to collect the money from your sale. That's a very good lesson to learn.
So the thing I think is amazing is one, it's like a hobby, but it's a business because you know what you're doing. You're buying and you're actually making money. And the other part is you get to keep some of those profits in things that you like, right?
Yes.
The fun thing is, imagine when you're at the garage sale in the flea market, the part we haven't talked about that she loves so much. It's not just the transaction, but it becomes like a treasure hunt. Like Indiana Jones looking for a treasure out there. So she's going through looking for a hidden gem and a hidden treasure amongst all of this other junk.
So your dad paints this great picture. Is that true? Do you feel like that?
Yes, it is, especially when those in a full out box. In boxes where there's lots of things, but it says like 5 for $1 or something.
Yeah.
Those are one of the best ones because you don't know what's in those boxes.
And you walk away, and it could be.
And you can, and then then she digs in and starts picking through.
Nice. And you sometimes it's like a surprise getting a gift, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is really a valuable one. And some of the money you actually use to buying other things that you say, well, I want to sell this, but really I kind of like it. And I think I've heard a couple stories of some weird stuff that you bought. One of them's kind of round like...
Yes, it was not weird. And it was an ostrich egg painted over with an ostrich on it.
An ostrich egg with an ostrich on it, okay.
Sometimes you just got to have one.
Yeah, you just need an ostrich egg.
Everyone
needs an ostrich egg.
Everyone should have an ostrich egg.
It is a memory from Africa.
For years.
Would be.
Yeah, and how many times have you been to Africa that you would want that memory?
But it will be a memory if I ever go to Africa.
So the thing is, I don't recall seeing any ostriches in Africa, but I'm sure there are lots of them there. So,
South Africa, whatever.
So you got this little gift for yourself, and it all came about because of this business. And then the double-sided lightsaber, which you collect, because how many lightsabers do you have now?
I think they're around more than 10.
More? And I love the story about the guitars, because you bought 2 guitars, right?
Yeah.
And you couldn't quite sell one of them, so what'd you do?
No, I couldn't sell. I mean, I could sell one, but then my sister wanted the red one because that's her favorite color. And sadly, I couldn't make a profit on her, so I had to.
No, why couldn't you
Why
make
not?
a profit on her?
Because my dad said no, and that would be immoral.
Immoral.
You were supposed to say it's because it's family and you don't make money off of family.
It's immoral. I like that.
He said it's immoral.
And that wasn't the truth. For full information for all the kids, she wanted to make a profit. And I negotiated with her that if she sold it for the same price to her sister, I would buy her a churro.
Churro.
So she did it for the churro. So she did make a profit. She got a free churro out of it.
So you've got some great stuff. You buy some great stories. You're making money. And what we want to tell kids is, hey, you know, there's all different types of ways to make money out there, right? You can cut lawns, walk dogs. You can buy low, sell high, and go to flea markets or garage sales.
There are kids that are buying used video games and reselling them.
So, yeah, you're telling me some great stories about...
That's what I did actually once.
You did?
Yeah, I actually sold a video game.
So you got these video games, and I think even Grant bought some video games that he didn't think he could buy. He thought he'd have to be $60, but if he got one that was gently used, it cost him like $8 or whatever. And so he's like, hey, this is awesome. But that's really cool. And I give you huge kudos for doing that. That's awesome. I think you're averaging about $50 a profit a month after everything else, which is great because it's something you love to do, right? And the old saying goes, hey, if you love to do it, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Yeah.
Now, one of the other things we want to talk about, because you have a very unique insight, and your dad does too, is that you lived in Russia for 7 years, right?
Yes.
And I think you speak fluent Russian, right?
Da.
Yeah,
Da. Can you say da? Hello, Mr. Jones. How are you?
Конечно. Привет, Mr. Jones.
Hey, okay. You got to like that. I like the vodka. That's my thing. But so you've lived in Russia, and we want to talk just a little bit about the money in Russia, because sometimes we don't talk about money in different cultures. And you were telling me some stuff about buying things in Russia, right? Like some things are super cheap, some things are super expensive. And I was hoping to maybe talk to you just a little bit about that. So the super cheap, I think we started with, which is how much whenever you have $1 worth of their local currency, what is their local currency? Because you have to pay with the money.
You can't pay in dollars, right?
It is a
So
rubles.
what do you pay rubles? Yeah.
They're in rubles, and
Which I always jokingly call Barney Rubbles.
Barney Rubble, yabba-dabba-doo.
and around 65 to 70 rubles is $1.
Okay. And you were telling me about, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but what's interesting is when we first got there, it was 35 rubles to the dollar.
Wow. So twice as many rubles.
Yeah.
So for $1, later on, we got twice as many rubles, so we could buy more.
So dollars are strong, and you use them in Russia to get rubles. And you were telling me how much a loaf of bread was in Russia.
Some of them are very cheap, at around 20 to 40 rubles each.
20 to 40 rubles. So what is that, like 15 to 50 cents, somewhere in that range?
For a loaf of bread.
Wow. So like money in other countries, because Glenn, you and I, you've probably been to more countries, like worked in more countries. What do you think?
To a lot.
25, 30 countries maybe?
40 or 50.
40 or 50. More.
It depends if we're talking UN certified or
not yet certified. But you were telling me about that, and then you're also telling me a little bit about like things that are very expensive. What were a couple things you said were expensive?
Apartments and toilets were very. But it's true.
So-
Toilets, outhouses were what's mostly been out there.
So we gotta.
Am I
clarify.
allowed to say this for a kid thing,
depends.
which was a learning?
It depends on what you're.
Maybe this isn't appropriate, but one of my stories from Russia is that when I went to a public restroom in a town, she asked me if I was doing 1 or 2.
Number 1 or 2, okay.
Because she charged differently because number 2 you need paper.
Because there are costs associated with
They
it.
had costs associated because they had to provide some TP, so they had to charge me 20 rubles instead of 10 rubles.
Wow, well, that's crazy.
Okay, that might get edited
So
out.
but the outhouse, like when you're in Moscow, right? That's where your mom's from. When you're in
Mom's
Moscow
from St. Petersburg.
or St. Petersburg.
Yep.
Sorry, but you lived in
Moscow.
Moscow.
Yes.
My fault. So when you're in the larger cities, you generally have an apartment. But when you're outside,
Sorry about that. St. Petersburg and Moscow, that's kind of like
New York
the
and LA?
Chicago Bears versus the New York Giants or something.
Very
Yeah.
bad. I
Oh,
get
yeah. One calls the other one the little village.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
The big
nice.
village, sorry. Yeah.
So when you're there, you have an apartment in the large cities, right?
Yes.
But then outside the city, you have a house, or you could rent it, like
Yes.
for. Go ahead.
It's around. Some of them can be expensive. It depends on the house and the property value also.
Right.
So if you're like near a lake and in cities and everything, it goes up.
Gotcha. I was getting to the part where we were talking about how an outhouse could be very expensive, because if you're renting a house outside of the main cities, then those houses cost more because you have a toilet indoors versus outdoors, right?
Yes.
electricity
And
and things
electricity, electricity, computers, and other special perks. Like there can be trampoline, a lake nearby.
Gotcha.
A lot of it, what it comes down to, which is quite interesting, is in the old days, Russia used to be the Soviet Union, a communist country. And so the stuff that was built during that period is very, very cheap. The stuff that was being built after the wall came down and it became a democracy is very, very expensive.
And that could be a podcast for hours and hours, but ask your parents, because the changes in the past in Russia and many countries in Eastern and Western Europe, lots of things changed. And you got a chance to experience, the different currency. You got a chance to experience like what things cost. And I think I remember us saying that if you wanted to buy strawberries over there, it would be like
Way more expensive because it's seasons.
Well, it would actually be.
That's true. There are seasons. So if you
Yes,
tried to buy it out of
right.
season because you couldn't
Get it.
like we do because we're lucky, we get stuff from Mexico or South America in our winters, they couldn't get it. So you had about 2 or 3 weeks in the year that strawberries were there. And they were really super cheap, but outside of that window,
Can you
Very
imagine
expensive.
not being able to get strawberries for a big period of time, 2 or 3 weeks.
A lot of fruits are like that, actually.
And
But-
you love gooseberries.
But when those
are
strawberries
one
were
of the
in
things
season-
that are mostly there year-round.
Gotcha.
I was just going to say, when the strawberries are in season, you ate them until you started to look like a strawberry. Because you had a whole nother year pass after that.
And when
So
we talk
Kentucky-
about the things that were difficult to get, or not difficult, but were expensive, were clothes, right? They were much more expensive. We talked about the fact that you couldn't actually get a double stroller in Russia. You had to buy that. So what happens when it's expensive? What are they really doing? We talked about would they make them in Russia or would they have to import them?
They would.
A lot of them were imported.
Yes,
Remember when we talked
a lot
about
of them
that?
were imported, but some also they have their own factories, of course.
On some things, yeah.
On some, but when they imported it, they'd actually charge an extra importation fee.
Yes, but most of the berries were actually grown on the farms in Russia because
Correct.
of all the forests nearby. They're actually like the gooseberries are actually known to grow a lot in.
Gotcha.
And if you wanted to buy, let's say, like an iPhone or an iPad, was that cheaper or more expensive than buying it in America?
It is, I think, more expensive because technology wasn't really a big part.
So do you remember how we went over that example that when Apple would come out with a new phone, they would start in North America, which means where we live, the United
Yes.
States, right? And they wouldn't sell any in Russia yet. They would wait, 6 months? Is that right, Glenn? Wait 6 months. So what was the supply in Russia for the first 6 months?
It was,
Goose egg, 0
0
for the first 6 months.
What was demand?
And what was the demand?
very high,
Very high.
How many people are in Russia?
like millions.
150 million people.
A third of the United States.
Yeah. And they all wanted an iPhone, and there was 0 of them there.
So what would happen? Didn't you tell me, Glenn?
So as we talked about, it was really amazing
Well, we
because
talked about opportunities to make money.
Right, opportunities to make money. Someone would buy a plane ticket for $1,000 from Russia to America. He would go to the Apple store. He would buy as many as he could, let's say 5 or 10. And then he would bring it back to Russia, and he would sell them like $2,000 each.
So he would make $1,000 on
At least.
10 iPhones. So he'd make $10,000
minus what his cost was. What was his cost
$1,000 round trip.
for the plane flight, right?
and so he would make $9,000. Now to put that in perspective, do you
For
remember?
what period of time? How long do you think it took him to do that?
4 days?
A week? Maybe a week? So he made $9,000 in a week.
And Glenn, what was the average pay in Russia a month?
During that time, people were lucky to get $250 to $300 a month. And so if we're talking about this week, we're talking their pay to work a whole week was maybe $70.
And he made $9,000 or 3 years worth
Yes.
of money in that short period of time. Now he had to have a visa to get into the United States, so there were some barriers. But talk about a money-making business, and talk about the differences. In the United States, we were discussing what does a physician or a doctor get paid? Did we talk to you about this?
No.
So,
but I think it's pretty high.
On average, probably $200 to $400, somewhere in there. And in Russia, do you remember how much it was that you got paid a month?
No, but it's more of a high, I think.
High compared to, let's say, 200.
Yes.
But
Still low.
so let's say they earned 500. They could earn
$500.
double everybody else, but only $500.
$6,000 a year. That's $500 a month times 12 months is $6,000. Where in the United States they earn 70 times that amount.
Yeah, it's sad.
So when we talked about it,
And part of the reason for that is there wasn't a lot of private practice because they have public health care there.
So public health care means everybody gets health care, which is a fantastic thing. But what happens is that sometimes it changes the pricing and changes your ability to get to a doctor. And what that means is if you get sick, they put you on the list and they get to you when they do. And your perfect example is you knew somebody who was sick, who needed a heart operation. And they said, hey, you're probably only going to last a month or two, but we can get you on the list, and in 6 months we can operate on you. Now, this is kind of hard to think about. You would not be alive still because you're only going to last 2 months because of this problem, and they can operate on you in 6 months. But if you pay them a little extra, then they'll put you to the front of the list. Now, that's not really cool.
But that's the way business worked there. Because the doctors weren't being paid much, so they were happy to get a little extra money to help you to get the surgery you needed
in order to get you healthy
to
again.
keep you alive, because the system wasn't working in your favor, and you wouldn't be around by the time you were ready to have that surgery.
So the thing is that we have tons and tons of stories, and they're all about money, but we wanted just to impress upon people that in other countries, the money and the way that the money works is substantially different, right?
Yes.
And we're lucky. You're lucky here because you do a great job with this hobby. You're earning good money. Got some good insurance that we're dealing with, and we've got a lot of real positive things to talk about. But I just wanted to end it here. We're 36 minutes. That's absolutely cool. Thank you for being here. Thank you, my guest, Miss Katie Schischa and Mr. Glenn Schischa, for being here. You guys have such wonderful stories. Can't wait to come back and hook up with you again and talk just a little bit more. So this is where we say goodbye. Ready? Goodbye.
Until the next treasure hunt. Bye.